Hello everyone, I'm using a different setup today. Hopefully it's not too bad. Sorry, we do have a little more reverb in the room. That's because I had to close the door. But anyway, I wanted to talk about a brand that I used to be super fond of. So this is a video about Olight. And you know, if you were to come to me maybe 4 years ago, 6 years ago, and you were to ask me, you were to say, hey, you know what? I'm looking for a decent light. I don't need it to be, I'm not going to take it into the battlefield or anything. I'm not going to be too hard on it. I just want a decent light that'll stand everyday drops and stuff, and one that's very versatile and has amazing performance. You know, I want versatility, I want run times, beam distance, good output, and I would have said Olight or Phoenix, either one, but those would be my top two. Through Night kind of following in a close third place. But now I don't do that. Now I will still recommend Phoenix, but I don't recommend Olight anymore. Now, Olight used to make lights like everyone else. They would use standard batteries. They'd use a standard 18650 or CR123As, and I know a lot of people say the CR123As are not standard, they're proprietary or whatever. That's bullshit. Numerous manufacturers make them, and I promise you, if you go to any big box store, and I mean any of them, Walmart, Target, Meijer, Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever it is you shop, I promise you, you will find CR123A cells. You're going to find packs of them. The problem is people generally don't use those cells and things like their TV remotes and stuff, which means they figure since it's not in their TV remote, it can't possibly be standard. And then, of course, since most of the things in the house don't use those, they're not really looking for them, so they just assume that they're not standard, and that's a load of lies. Go to any battery aisle, check the whole thing. I promise you'll find them. They're going to be in there. But anyway, Olight used to make lights that ran on standard batteries, including AA's and AAA's, which are a little more accessible. Now they don't, and that's the problem. So, I've been with Olight for a long time. I don't work for them. They don't know who I am. Not sponsored by them, unlike most of the gear reviewers that are reviewing their products right now. I'm a regular guy who likes decent lights, and sure, I've gone into more high-end brands lately, but they were still a good company. And, I have my M1X Striker still, and still love it. And I really like my i5T EOS. But, unfortunately, this new breed of Olights, I'm not really a fan of. So let's talk about that. Olight is now using proprietary batteries. Batteries that are incompatible with every other light, every other charger ever made. It's incompatible with everything. Notice that this battery looks a little unusual. It's because they wanted to screw you over. This over here has a standard negative terminal, but this end has a negative terminal that is surrounding a positive terminal. But to make things even goofier, what they did is they added this raised plastic isolation ring thing here, which means you can't use it anywhere. You have to use it in the light that it came in. Have you ever put a bunch of batteries on a cradle charger to keep your light going so you can rotate batteries? You can't do that with the new Olights. You ever had an emergency where the battery died, you need to take one from another light or wherever and put it in here? You can't do that with these, unless of course you have the same model or a similar one that runs on the same proprietary cell, but those chances are pretty slim. Did you ever forget your charging cable? Oh well, now with the new proprietary USB charging cables, you can't charge them. So if you don't have that cable, you're out of luck. That's the new Olight. They usually say customized 21700 and customized 18650, and that's because they are proprietary versions of standard 21700s and 18650s. So Not something I would recommend. So there it is. There's kind of a little complaint video. I've walked away from the brand after carrying Olight flashlights for a good 6-7 years, something like that. For most of the company's existence, really, I think they're only like 10 or 11 years old or something like that, if I remember correctly. They're not a very old company. They just did things better than a lot, not all, but a lot of the competition. One of the companies that kind of killed Maglite. But yeah, right now, not really liking them quite as much. So I decided to try it because I knew if I made a video bashing this, a lot of people would, complain about that and say, oh, you didn't try it and this and that. So I did. I tried it thoroughly. I've had this light for quite a while now. And the sad thing is I also had the original. I prefer the original. Sure, the runtimes aren't quite as good, but 4+ hours on a super duper high mode is very good. The advantage is with the old one, I can swap batteries. I cannot do that with this, which means technically I can keep it going for a lot longer than this ever will. The other thing is, although it does have that nice magnetic charging, the best magnetic charging in the industry, I still have the option of charging it in any charger I want, using the batteries and any lights I want. I can't do that with this. And the other thing is the older model actually has better beam distance than this new one. So really this is inferior in every way. Sure, it's 3-meter impact resistant. Not the best I've seen. I have lights that do better than that, although they are more expensive. Well, not all of them, but most of them. And, the older version of this is only 2-meter impact resistant, but that's more than enough for everyday stuff. And really, this isn't a proper tactical light anyway. A lot of people think it is. A lot of people don't really know what they're doing. You don't want latching switches like that. That's a stupid idea. If you don't believe me, ask any trainer, anyone that trains military and law enforcement. They'll tell you that switches like that aren't exactly recommended. You could dive behind cover, blind yourself, and illuminate yourself, making you quite an easy target. So, yeah, that was stupid. Everything else is kind of good. So, they never really knew how to make proper tactical lights, but, they make good everyday lights and stuff like that. Good versatility, good performance, but I wouldn't recommend the newer models. I just think there's too many proprietary nonsense going on. You're just hoping that 5 or 10 years down the road, they will still make these special batteries. And even if they do, it's kind of inconvenient when you can't charge it in a cradle charger. You cannot rotate batteries. You have to turn the light off and charge the battery inside the light. You have to use their special proprietary USB charger and hope you don't forget to bring it with you. Numerous other issues. Being a rechargeable cell, this will not work in extreme temperatures. It also doesn't have a 10-year shelf life like some of the standard batteries do. Not standard rechargeables, but at least with the rechargeables you can swap them. This you can't. You could remove the battery, but that's only good if you have another special proprietary cell that's compatible with this light, and only if that cell was charged inside of this light or another special Olight flashlight that uses that battery. So, you have to use that cable. So there it is. All the reviewers I've seen on YouTube right now, or at least a good chunk of them that are reviewing these Olight flashlights, they are sponsored. Unlike me, they're not really buying it with their own money. They're kind of given free gifts by Olight or whatever. And unfortunately, I've noticed an ongoing trend where they don't generally mention the proprietary cell. A lot of them don't show it. I forgot what the channel was, but, some guy who was actually sponsored by Olight and admitted that he was sponsored by Olight. He was showing the light and what it can do. And he said, and it runs on an 18650. And then he never showed the battery. He just said, it runs on an 18650. And then went on with his review. And in the comments, I said something like, well, that's not a standard 18650. You should let people know that that is a proprietary 18650. And he responded back pretty quick and said, well, it's still an 18650 though. And well, you don't get it. That's dishonest. And I said, here's what an 18650 is. A standard 18650 can be used with any, and I mean any, 18650 light in any 18650 charger. Olight's proprietary 18650s cannot. They have to be used in Olight lights, but only the newer lights that are designed to run on those proprietary customized 18650 cells, and they are not compatible with any external charger ever, not even an Olight one. So I was telling them, really, there is a big difference between a standard 18650 and a customized one now, isn't there? And of course, he had no response to that because he knew I was right. So unfortunately, a lot of these reviewers now are sponsored, and a lot of them do not want to show the batteries because they know that for a lot of people, that's kind of a huge turnoff. So, you know, people don't want rechargeable cells, so not rechargeable cells, proprietary rechargeable cells. Sorry about that. So anyway, there it is. That's this little review. It's not really a review on this light. I have better things to review than this personally. I'll probably review it at some point, but it's going to be a brutally honest review of the many things this doesn't do and the few things it does. It is kind of a specialty light, and even more so now with that proprietary cell in it. If you need a light like this, get the original. Trust me, it's better. I have the original one. It's better. Better beam distance than this. Better everything. The other thing is, I know Olight, I believe they originally said the reason why they went with these proprietary cells was for performance improvements, and that's bullshit because Phoenix and Claris are making lights that are 3,000 or 4,000 lumens that are just as big, cost just as much or a little less, and they use standard 21700s, not proprietary ones like this, and they have the same battery life or better. So that's also a load of crap. So hopefully you learned something today. Unfortunately, I can no longer recommend this brand.